think we can fix that.
All right, so I need an outfeed table. I also need an assembly table. I want a big assembly table so that way I can build things like kitchen tables and stuff like that if I need to. I need a place to put my joiner that preferably has wheels, and I need it to be cheap. So that's why I'm unloading this cheap wood from my local big box. And we're going to cut down some legs here and see what we can do. Now, before you say something about me adding this little spacer block here to help me chop all the way through, and point out that this is indeed a sliding miter saw, and I could have just slid it to make that cut, I'm going to let you know that there's a bolt that locks the sliding mechanism, and it's stripped, so I got to figure out a way to get that off before I can unlock the sliding portion of my miter saw. So that'll be fun. So now that we have our 4x4s cut down into the legs, we're going to space them out where we want them, take measurements, and cut down our 2x4s so that way we can create the rest of our skeleton. For every one piece that I measure, I need to cut 2, so that way I have one for the left and one for the right side of the table. And once we have everything cut, we can lay it out so my impatience can get the better of me, but we can at least see what it is that we're building. Moment of truth here, did I mess up this cut, or did I mean to do this? It looks like I meant to do it. Oh, and here's me explaining something that I have no idea what it is that I said back then, but future me is just going to say that I meant to leave this part, and let's add a little decorative piece so that way it looks good. I see on things like patio covers that this end is chopped off to create a more decorative style for the frame. I don't know what this angle's supposed to be, but I think that looks quite good.
Alright, now we're going to move to the table saw and rabbit out some slots for these to sit into, and then we'll put some thick dowels in there to hold everything together. Thick dowels, wood glue, should be strong.
To make rabbets that are perfectly sized, make sure you use the wood that you're going to be making the slots for to make your measurements. Tip number 2 is anytime you're making any adjustments where your hand comes near the saw blade, make sure your saw's not even plugged in. No, here you go. Use your material to measure how wide your cut needs to be, and you'll always have a perfect fit. God, just buy the dado blade already. Am I right? There is a benefit to not having a dado blade. Here it is. Yep. Now that we have everything dadoed out, we can see if these fit together nice and flush. If there needs to be cleanup, which it looks like there obviously is, but nothing a nice, sharp, rusty old chisel can't fix. Now that everything fits together perfectly, it's time to start adding some glue. This little silicone tray and brush will save you a bunch of time with cleanup, and it's actually quite satisfying to break it off. So we'll add a liberal amount of glue to this joint here. We're not going to use clamps to hold these pieces together. I'm just going to shove a screw right through, and that'll be more than enough. This screw that I'm putting in here will only be held in there until the glue dries. This isn't the final look. We'll end up removing it and putting some dowels. And once I do that to all of the joints, I have 2 pieces put together, and they look wonderful. Have you spotted the mistake? Because I haven't yet. 3, 2, 1, and there we go. You dummy. It's upside down. Lucky for me, I caught this mistake almost right away. So there's nothing removing those screws and then a little tap of a mallet couldn't fix. We'll add a little bit more glue and then we'll put that screw back in. The screw holes actually lined up relatively close, so no harm, no foul. And there it is, good as new. We'll end up sanding that down so that glue dries. This is all going to be painted anyway, so you won't be able to see that. Now that we have our 2 long sides drying up, it's time to work on the horizontal pieces. I'm just using what's left over of the 4x4s, and that'll be the bracer pieces for not all of it, but the exposed exterior sides. You'll see what I'm talking about later. And then everything that's closer towards the inside that's going to be support for drawers and stuff like that. We'll just use what's left over of the 2x4 so that way we're not adding a ton of weight to this workbench. Remember, we need to be able to find casters that can hold this baby up even when there's a piece being worked on top of it. I gave in. I got a dado blade, so I'm going to use it to cut out these. We're going to do mortars and tenons because that will add a tremendous amount of strength to the structure of the workbench. And look at how nice this cuts. Obviously, this is sped up 10 times, so, you know, it's still 10 times slower for me than what's showing here, but it was still much faster. So now it's time to cut the mortise for the tenon to fit into, and I just cut this 1-inch spacer block so that way I can kind of create the area that needs to be cut out. And then the best way, find center, and then the best way I found to cut this out, I tried a few different methods, was to just buy, go to the big box store and buy a Forstner bit, and that cut out the bulk of it, and then I just had to clean up the corners with a chisel. And it wasn't a perfect fit, but I mean, this is going to be mostly hidden, and then again you're going to have a dowel coming from the middle, so the dowel is going to go through the front piece. This isn't going to go all the way through. It's going to go through the front piece and then into the end of the tenon, and everything will be held in by that big, it's probably going to be like a 3/4 inch dowel, something pretty beefy and pretty strong. So here we are. I'll use my chisel to just clean up what's left of it. Some of these ended up coming out a little bit tighter, and the other ones, the tenons fit right in just perfectly. So it wasn't a foolproof method. If I was doing through tenons, then I would be concerned because I'd want the presentation on the outside to look good. But I'm not gonna have to worry about that with this. So now seems like a good time to let you know that I'm in a 2-car garage that I also have to share as a storage area for just general home use, as well as any like outdoor activities that I like to do. So make sure you subscribe below. I have a lot of ideas to help you utilize the amount of space that you have in your shop, and everything that I build is going to have multiple purposes like this workbench is. So the easiest way for me to get the tenons in and secured was to prop the whole thing up on these 2 storage bins. I'm going to put the tenons in just to make sure everything fits nice. I'm going to add glue. I'm going to take them out. I'm going to add glue, put the tenons back in, and then I'm going to add that screw back from the other side so that way it goes into the end of the tenon and pulls it down while the glue dries. Then I can remove the screw. I can add that dowel to cover up the screw hole, as well as add a little bit more glue surface and strength, and then we'll be good to go. This is a good idea if you don't have 3-foot wide clamps like I don't. I'll end up getting those, but I'm not in the position to get them right now. I have nowhere to store them, and the storage is going to be built into this workbench. So I did end up explaining that to you because I had seen that my camera had actually died when I added the glue and the screw to it, as well as when I put the top back on. So I took the screw and I took the driver and I put screws in the top end of it too after lifting it over. And with glue and the screw, it was able to set and dry. I've already removed the screws, and now it's time to flip it over. So let's see what we can do. That was way easier than I thought it would be, and when flipping this over, it felt really, really sturdy, really durable. So I kind of jumped on it a little bit, I sat on the railing, and this thing felt good to go.
Alright, well that's it for this video. We got the whole skeleton done. We have an Amazon order on the way. It's going to be some removable casters for the base, and then I think next time we'll start with the tops before we start making the interior, just so that way we can start using this thing. We can get the table saw on there, we can get the joiner on there, and we can start playing around with it and make life a little easier. So, catch you next time.